Jungkook's heart was a fragile thing, tucked beneath layers of quiet smiles and soft glances. He'd always been the one who loved too deeply, too quickly, like a moth drawn to a flame that could burn him whole. And Kim Taehyung was that flame, radiant, untouchable, and carrying a storm in his eyes that Jungkook couldn't look away from. It started in the quiet of a Seoul autumn, leaves falling like whispered confessions. Taehyung had just ended things with his ex, a relationship that left him hollowed out, his laughter dimmed. Jungkook, a mutual friend of their tight-knit group, noticed the change. Taehyung's once vibrant energy was replaced by a restlessness, a need to fill the void. And Jungkook, ever the comforter, offered himself without a second thought. "Wanna grab a drink?" Taehyung had asked one night, his voice low, almost desperate. Jungkook nodded, ignoring the way his pulse quickened at the invitation. They ended up at a small bar, neon lights casting shadows over Taehyung's sharp jawline. He talked about her, how she'd left, how he couldn't sleep, how he needed to feel something else. Jungkook listened, his heart aching with every word, not because of the story but because of the way Taehyung's eyes searched for something Jungkook wasn't sure he could give. One drink turned into two, then three. Taehyung's hand brushed Jungkook's under the table, a fleeting touch that set Jungkook's skin on fire. "You're always here for me, kook," Taehyung murmured, his voice slurring with soju and something heavier, grief, maybe, or longing. Jungkook wanted to believe it was for him. It wasn't. The first happened a week later, outside Jungkook's apartment. Taehyung was drunk, eyes glassy with unshed tears, and Jungkook was too weak to say no. Their lips crashed together, messy and urgent, Taehyung's hands gripping Jungkook's waist like he was anchoring himself to something real. Jungkook melted into it, his heart screaming that this was it, this was them. But when Taehyung pulled back, his gaze was distant, like he was seeing someone else in Jungkook's place. I need to forget her," Taehyung whispered, and Jungkook's world tilted. He nodded anyway, letting Taehyung inside, letting him take what he needed. Because Jungkook would rather have Taehyung like this, broken, fleeting, than not at all. The nights blurred together. Taehyung would show up, sometimes sober, sometimes not, seeking comfort in Jungkook's arms. Jungkook gave everything, his touch, his warmth, his heart, knowing it wasn't enough. Taehyung never stayed until morning. He'd leave with a soft thanks, kook, and Jungkook would lie awake, tracing the ghost of Taehyung's hands on his skin, wondering when he'd become so invisible. He tried to stop it once. "Tae, what are we doing?" he asked, voice trembling as they lay tangled in Jungkook's sheets. Taehyung's fingers stilled on Jungkook's back, and for a moment, there was silence. "I don't know," Taehyung admitted, his voice raw. I can't be alone right now." Jungkook's chest tightened, but he didn't push. He couldn't. Because every time Taehyung smiled at him, every time those dark eyes softened, Jungkook fell harder. He memorized the curve of Taehyung's lips, the way his laughter sounded when it broke through the sadness, the rare moments when Taehyung seemed to see him. Jungkook clung to those moments, building a fragile hope that maybe, one day, Taehyung would love him back. Winter came, and Taehyung started to heal. His smiles returned, brighter, less haunted. Jungkook watched, torn between joy and dread, because a healed Taehyung didn't need him anymore. One night, Taehyung showed up with a grin, no trace of the broken man who'd leaned on Jungkook for months. I'm good, Kook, he said, clapping Jungkook's shoulder like they were just friends again. I'm over here. Thanks for, being there. Jungkook forced a smile, his throat burning. Anytime, but Taehyung didn't come back. Not the next night, or the one after. Jungkook saw him at group hangouts, laughing with their friends, his arm around someone new. Jungkook's heart shattered quietly, piece by piece, as he realized he'd been a bridge, a way for Taehyung to cross from heartbreak to healing, nothing more. Luckily one night, Jungkook sat alone in his apartment, staring at the empty space where Taehyung used to be. He traced the scars of unrequited love in his chest, wondering if he'd ever learned to stop falling for flames. But even now, knowing it all, he couldn't regret it. Because for a fleeting moment, Taehyung had been his, even if it was only in the shadow of someone else. The soul spring bloomed with a cruel kind of beauty, cherry blossoms drifting like fleeting promises. Jungkook walked through the city, hands stuffed in his jacket, trying to outrun the ache that had settled in his bones. It had been 2 months since Taehyung stopped coming over, 2 months since Jungkook became a ghost in his own story. Yet every corner of the city held memories, cafes where they laughed over iced coffee, alleys where Taehyung's hand had brushed his, nights when Jungkook had dared to hope. He avoided their group hangouts now. The sight of Taehyung's easy smile, his arms slung around someone new, a dancer named Minho with sharp cheekbones and a laugh that cut through Jungkook like glass, was too much. Jungkook told himself he was fine, that he could move on. But his heart was a traitor, replaying Taehyung's whispers, his fleeting touches, the way he'd looked at Jungkook in the dark, like maybe, just maybe, he felt something too. It was Jimin who dragged him out one evening, refusing to let Jungkook spiral alone. You can't hide forever, Kook, Jimin said, his voice gentle but firm. Come to the studio. We're just jamming tonight. Jungkook relented, knowing Jimin wouldn't take no for an answer. The dance studio was a familiar haven, its mirrored walls reflecting years of sweat and dreams. But when Jungkook stepped inside, his heart stopped. Taehyung was there, leaning against the wall, his laughter filling the room as Minho spun him in a playful twirl. Jungkook's bag slipped from his shoulder, hitting the floor with a dull thud. Taehyung's eyes met his, and for a moment, time froze. There was something in Taehyung's gaze, surprise, maybe guilt, but it vanished as quickly as it came. Kook? You made it, Taehyung called, his voice warm but distant, like he was greeting an old acquaintance. Jungkook forced a smile, his chest tight. Yeah. Jimin insisted, the night was torture. Jungkook moved through the choreography, his body fluid but his mind elsewhere. Taehyung and Minho danced together, their chemistry effortless, their laughter a melody Jungkook couldn't unhear. Every glance Taehyung threw his way felt like a knife, twisting deeper because it wasn't the same. There was no heat, no lingering softness, just casual friendliness, as if those nights in Jungkook's apartment had never happened. After practice, Jungkook lingered by the water cooler, hoping to slip out unnoticed. But Taehyung found him, his presence a quiet storm. You've been quiet, Taehyung said, leaning against the wall, his voice low. Everything okay? Jungkook's throat burned. He wanted to scream, to ask why Taehyung had used him, why he'd let Jungkook fall so far only to walk away. Instead, he shrugged. Just tired, Taehyung studied him, his dark eyes unreadable. You sure? You seem different, The irony stung. Jungkook wanted to laugh, to cry, to grab Taehyung and shake him until he saw the wreckage he'd left behind. But all he said was, "I'm fine, Tae. Don't worry about me." Taehyung frowned, like he wanted to say more, but Minho called his name, and he turned away. Jungkook watched him go, the ache in his chest blooming into something sharper, anger, maybe, or the first stirrings of resolve. That night, Jungkook sat on his balcony, the city lights blurring through unshed tears. He pulled out his sketchbook, a habit he'd abandoned when Taehyung became his muse. His pencil moved, tracing the lines of Taehyung's face, his sharp jaw, his soulful eyes, the smile that had once felt like home. But as the sketch took shape, Jungkook's hand trembled. He tore the page out, crumpling it in his fist. "I'm done," he whispered to the empty night, though he wasn't sure if he believed it. The next day, Jungkook signed up for a solo dance project, something to pour himself into, something to drown out the echo of Taehyung's voice. He practiced until his muscles screamed, until his reflection in the studio mirror showed someone stronger, someone who could survive this. But late at night, when the world was quiet, Jungkook's heart still whispered Taehyung's name. And then, a week later, Taehyung texted him, "Can we talk? I miss you." Jungkook stared at the message, his heart racing, his mind screaming to delete it. But his fingers hovered, betraying him. Because even now, after everything, a part of him still hoped.